Mitt Romney has not gone outside the friendly confines of Fox News Channel throughout this whole race. And finally, he's decided, all right, I'll do a Sunday show that isn't on Fox News. Am I not merciful? I will sit down with Bob Schieffer of Face the Nation. We begin to get a sense of why he hasn't done that in the past, because Bob Schieffer was actually a journalist and did a number of follow-up questions on the issue of immigration, which of course has been in the news this week because President Obama announced that he would allow young people who are here to remain for 2 years if they got into high school, graduated from high school, were in the country for 5 years, etc., or if they served in the armed forces. So Mitt Romney has to disagree with that policy while at the same time agreeing with it so he can get Latino votes. So hence, you have this awesome piece of political speak right here.
Would you repeal this order if you became president?
Well, let's step back and look at the issue. I mean, first of all, we have to secure the border. We need to have an employment verification system to make sure that those that are working here in this country are here legally. As you know, he was president for the last 3.5 years, did nothing on immigration. 2 years he had a Democrat's House and Senate, did nothing of a permanent or long-term basis. What I would do is I'd make sure that by coming into office, I would work with Congress to put in place a long-term solution for the children of those that have come here illegally. And I've said, for instance, that those who serve in the military, I would give permanent residence to.
Sure. But would you repeal this?
Well, it would be overtaken by events, if you will, by virtue of my putting in place a long-term solution with legislation which creates law that relates to these individuals such that they know what their setting is going to be, not just for the term of a president, but on a permanent basis.
I won't keep on about this, but just to make sure I understand, would you leave this in place while you worked out a long-term solution, or would you just repeal it?
We'll look at that. We'll look at that setting as we reach that.
No, Bob, keep going. I like where you're going with this. That was an excellent set of follow-up questions, because he's trying to nail down this slimy guy who doesn't want to give you the answer. Whenever they say, well, let's take a step back, or let's take a broader look, that means I don't want to answer your question, so I would like to answer something else. And then, of course, Romney did the trick of, President Obama had all this time to do this. Well, no. But we're interested in what your proposal is. You could become president of the United States of America. Are you going to repeal it, or are you not going to repeal it? Well, let's take a broader look at long-term solutions, and it depends on the situation. In other words, no, you're not going to give us an answer, are you? Of course not, right? And by the way, part of the reason President Obama, quote unquote, did nothing about this is because the Republicans in Congress blocked him 100%. Now, President Obama, maybe he could have done this executive order earlier. That's what I would have pushed for. But did he try to do the DREAM Act? Yes, you got to give him credit on that. He tried. Did the Republicans block him? Absolutely. So that's why Mitt Romney is giving you this greasy answer. Because on the one hand, right now, President Obama is getting 68% of the Latino vote. If he continues in that direction, he might win the presidency just on that demographic alone, meaning the difference that demographic would make in the election in swing states in particular, right? So he doesn't want to piss off Latinos. So Mitt Romney can go, I'm not saying I would repeal that thing that really helps Latinos and other immigrants with their kids. I'm not saying that. On the other hand, he's got this rabid right-wing base who hates everything Obama does. He's got to oppose him in every way, and they hate immigrants. So he can't say, oh, well, I'm going to keep it in place. So he says, let's take a step back and look forward, and I don't know, I'm not going to answer you because I'm greasy Mitt Romney. In fact, he's not alone in thinking that he's going to lose on the Latino vote alone if he says, hey, you know what, I don't care about Latinos, I don't care about immigrants, and the minute I get into office, I'm going to repeal Obama's executive order. Well, he didn't say that, partly because of what George Will says here. He makes a good point, which is interesting, so let's watch.
I support the DREAM Act. I also, however, support the Constitution, the separation of powers, and all that. So I think these aims should be done legislatively. But from
the president said he tried and it couldn't happen.
Well, that's too bad. That our system is designed to be difficult to move, and if it doesn't move, you try and try again. You don't just say, well, the Constitution's fine, I give it one try, then we'll do something else. Look, he knows the Republicans have a problem. They spent the primary season competing to see who could build the longest, thickest, tallest, most lethally electrified fence. And Hispanics listening to this detected hostility. They're funny that way. And so Romney has a big hole to dig out of, because if he gets under, say, the 31% of Hispanic voters that McCain got, he's going to lose.
On that note, I totally agree. So he realizes, okay, I'm totally pro-immigration except for the fact that I hate immigrants. Did I cover all my bases? The Republican, rabid right-wing base, are you still with me? Latinos, are you still with me? Well, the answer is no, they're not with you, because it's so obvious what a slimy politician you are. And even George Will pointing out the obvious here. He can't win without that Latino vote. And they were so anti-Latino, so anti-immigrant throughout the whole primary season that it's not clear how they're going to win back that vote. Now, they're in such desperate straits here to win back Latinos. Even Bill Kristol on Fox News Channel, one of the most right-wing guys in the country, is like George Will said, well, I'm totally in favor of the DREAM Act and helping immigrants. Of course, we're totally in favor of it. Watch.
Bill, what do you think of the policy, and what do you think of the fact that the president went around Congress and did this by executive action?
I think it's a sensible policy. I think it would be much better if that were the law of the land, and I think the president's pushing the edges of the limits of prosecutorial discretion and saying we're not going to enforce a law in order to leave these people in the country, but I think it's the right thing to do, actually.
All right, by the way, that answers George Will's question. He's like, look, too bad if you couldn't get it through Congress, you can't have it. That would be a fair point if it was unconstitutional, but I think it's a very fair argument to make to say it is constitutional because I'm the executive branch. I get to decide who we deport and don't deport. That's my prosecutorial discretion, and I've decided that we're not going to deport these people. So now all the Republicans are saying, well, yeah, except no. We would deport them immediately, okay? That's the reality. So you want to get a better sense of the reality of what the right wing actually thinks? Well, let's stay with Fox News, because they're going to inadvertently start to fearmonger on this because they can't help it. And in that, you'll have your answer what they actually think. Watch.
Also, not just about the criminal records, the misdemeanors thing. I think a lot of you folks out there are probably like, okay, maybe that's not such a big deal. But then you also have the fact that you're going to have a lot of people who are now, again, active for the workforce, who are going to be taking jobs, potentially jobs away from people who are here legally or were born here.
And that's an argument that I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you go back and forth on that. I don't know that it holds a lot of water.
Well, there's also the fact that they could have a major wave, a major spike of illegal immigration in the short term with people thinking, hey, here's my window of opportunity to get my kids, a place to stay in America.
Right, so now's the time to go running over the border.
Now's the time to go running over the border. All right, now it's, of course, Clayton Morris and Juliet Huddy saying those nonsense things. And they're nonsense because, according to the rule, you have to show that you were in the country for 5 years. So if you run over the border now, you'd be 5 years too late. But facts be damned. It's Fox News. They're coming over the border. We hate them so much. By the way, could you just do us a little favor and vote for us anyway? Yeah, I don't think so. And that's the problem Mitt Romney has. That's why he gave that greasy answer in the first place.